Good morning, dear participants. We express our hearty welcome to webinar on impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy, organized by Department of Economics of Fiscal College, Autonomous, Bangalore. We have with us Dr. Vinod Devi, coordinator of the Department of Economics of our college. Over to Dr. Vinod Devi. Ma'am, please start.
Good morning, all. We can start the session with a silent prayer. A very warm good morning to one and all present here. It's a great privilege and honor to welcome you all to the webinar on impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy, organized by Department of Economics, Christu Jayanti College. First and foremost, I would like to welcome the resource person of the webinar, Dr. S. Mateshwaran, Director, Institute of Social and Economic Change, for accepting our invitation to deliver his views on the current situation. Welcome you, sir. I also welcome Reverend Father Joskuti, Principal, and Reverend Father Augustine Judge, Vice Principal, for inspiring us to conduct this program. Welcome you, Fathers. My sincere welcome also goes to our Dean, Dr. Aloysius Edward, who is a thoughtful leader who always open up to new ideas. So he is one of the samplers this program. Welcome you, sir. And also I welcome all the delegates from different parts of this country. Welcome you all to the webinar on impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy. So before going into the session, I would like to introduce the resource person of the webinar. The resource person is Dr. S. Mateshwaran, an acclaimed development economist, econometrician of the country. At present, he is working as a director, Institute for Social and Economic Change, Bangalore, which is one of the premier institute of our country. He is also deputed as an advisor to the Planning and Program Monitoring and Statistics Department, Government of Karnataka. And also he is an instrumental to write an evaluation and monitoring policy 2010 for the state of Karnataka, which has laid the foundation to set up a Karnataka Evaluation Authority. He was the first chief evaluation officer and one of the founding member of Karnataka Evaluation Authority, which is an independent evaluation office of the government of Karnataka. He has also redesigned and coordinated economic survey of government of Karnataka for 5 years and also coordinated 12th 5-year plan, approach paper and human development report. And he is an advisor to strengthening statistical system of government of Karnataka. He is also a chairperson for the steering committee to bring Youth Development Index and Youth Status Report, Ministry of Youth Affairs, Government of India during 2017. Apart from this, he served as a member of many important government committees, both in central and state government. He has also written State Action Plan for Election Commission and an advisor of Chief Election Commission, Karnataka. He is also elected as Vice President in Indian Econometrics Society. He was a Managing Director of the Journal of Social and Economic Development, Springer. He has been coordinating many training programs for Indian Economic Service Officers and Indian Statistical Service Officers of Government of India. He also involved in strengthening the capacity building of researchers in South Asia through international training program conducted by the International Labour Organization and South Asian Network for the Development and Environmental Economy. He was also a recipient of Kempe Gowda Award, Government of Karnataka, for his excellence in policy making using economics and statistics. He is also conferred as a fellow by South Asian Network for Development and Environmental Economics by Nobel laureate Professor K.J. Arrow in April 2007. He is also conferred as fellow by International Labour Studies Institute, Germany till March 2019. Recently, the Institute for the Study of Labour, Germany conferred him as a fellow till March, and he was a visiting scholar at Harvard University, USA. He is a visiting scholar to International Research Institute of Sociology and Economics of Education, France. He has visited almost 20 countries for the academic activities such as presenting papers, teaching, visiting professors, collaborative projects of India, etc. Now I hand over the session to the resource person. Can kindly take over the session, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Respected Reverend Father is presiding over the function, and my friend Professor Edward, who has requested me to share my thoughts about the impact of COVID on the Indian economy, and dear participants. Of course, this is not the great occasion that we have to talk in a great happy moment, and of course, I like the gesture that Madam Vinoda Devi has started with the prayer. I was a little emotional because there are many lives we lost in the world, and the great gesture that Madam Vinoda Devi has started with the prayer, and of course, let us all pray the departed soul because of this pandemic COVID virus. By saying all these things as an, I'll come to the subject. As of now, all of you know this, Ministry of Family and Health Welfare have announced the total number of COVID cases in India now are near about 70,000 mark. I mean, more than 70,000, with 46,000 active cases and 22,454 is cured, and near about 2,293 people have died in India. The recovery rate is 31%. But given this situation, what has happened is that this pandemic virus, all of you know, has caused an unprecedented human and health crisis. The effects of this lockdown period have been severely felt by everybody because the production, consumption, exchange, and other interdependent economic activities have crippled the industry at the national level and within the states. And there is a loss of employment, and income have severely impacted the workers in the informal sector and poor families who are unprotected by statutory social security measures. And livelihood has been the critical issue for them as well as their dependents, especially if they are migrants or homeless. So the provision of livelihood security comprising income and food security has been the biggest national challenge now that Government of India and the state governments have to jointly cope up with during this lockdown. These are all the issues which I have flagged now, which all of you know. This is what happening. There is a loss of employment. There is an unprotected social security measure, and also that the livelihood option, and which is a very critical issue in this country. See, what I'm going to talk about is that when Edward was asking me, sir, we would like you to say a few words about the Indian economy. Basically, everybody is talking about the migrant laborers, informal sector, and various issues. In this talk, I would like to confine myself with one or two, sorry, maximum three problems. So, given this preamble, let us go to some global economy, because most of the economics teachers and economics students are in the line, and because not necessarily that we have to start with the Indian economy. Let me start with the global economy very briefly. See, with the onset of this COVID-19, the global economy is set to enter a sharp double dip recession, which we are seeing. Many international agencies have already forecasted, like our IMF and many international agencies have forecasted that the global growth rate could be minus 3% in 2020, which is a decline of about 6 percentage points from that baseline projection of positive 3% growth with no pandemic, because they have compared with the baseline of no pandemic with this recent situation, which is nothing but is a double dip recession, and the global growth rate could be -3% in 2020. So such a swings in growth forecasts are unprecedented, and this is due to both health scare with lots of death and infection, and also due to lockdown of major part of the global economy. This is the very snapshot of this global economy, that what we are seeing is a short double dip recession with -3% global growth rate in this 2020. So when you come to India, of course, Indian economy was already in a slowdown phase before the pandemic affected. Before pandemic affected also, Indian economy was already in a slowdown phase. And there were expectations that the economy is on a recovery path. But the COVID-19, such hopes are not only dented, rather than turning out to be much deeper. So there are various forecasts that suggest a sharper slowdown. Some forecasts even suggest a negative growth, which was not heard in the past 5 decades in the Indian economy. There are many economic students sitting here. Is that with my talk as a teacher, I can give some assignment to you people that with the lockdown and with this increasing infection, the uncertainty in the economy has increased many folds. So how to look at this uncertainty in the sense that there are discussion about the shape of the recovery. Sometimes it looks like V shape, sometimes it looks like U shape, sometimes it looks like W shape. And you may be wonder what is this V and U and V. Basically, the economist developed a chart by examining the relevant measures of economic health, such as they use 3 variables: employment rate, gross domestic product, and industrial output. So when you look at employment rate, gross domestic product, and industrial output, of course, there are quite a lot of the projection has come, and the shape of the recovery could be V shape or U shape or W shape. But in my view, the most probabilistic recovery could see an elongated U-shaped curve. This is what our data says. Nevertheless, I told that many economic students can understand, if you look at the 3 parameters, employment rate, gross domestic product, and industrial output, you could end up with V or U or W, but in my view, the most probabilistic recovery in India could see an elongated U-shaped curve. I know that V-shaped in the sense that in a V-shaped recession, the economy suffers a sharp economic decline, but quickly and strongly recovers. Such recoveries are generally spurred by a significant shift in the economic activity caused by increased consumer demand and spending. That's not happening. That's called V-shaped. That's what I'm saying. V-shaped recession means the economy suffers a sharp economic decline, but quickly and strongly recovers. It comes down and just immediately recovers. So such kind of activity is caused by increased consumer demand and spending, but it's not happening. But what is happening is that, in my view, the most probabilistic recovery is the W. It is a U-shaped, elongated U-shaped recovery in India. That U-shaped recovery describes a type of economic recession and recovery that charts a usage established when certain metrics such as employment, GDP, and industrial output sharply decline and then remain depressed, typically over a period of 12 to 24 months before they bounce back again. But that's what I'm saying. Before they bounce back again, it is elongated U-shape that we should be very careful. That's what the thing. So what you have learned is that in India, with the lockdown, with the increasing infection, the uncertainty in the economy has increased manifold. And in my view, the most probabilistic recovery could see an elongated U-shape. So this, as an economic students and professors, you can get the data and you can see how the recovery goes on in India. Whatever maybe that, this is a kind of information which I would like to say two things about how the economy looks like in the time of lockdown and the increasing infection and the uncertainty in the economy. Now, while saying this, what are the policy options that India has in order to overcome such uncertainty? Has India done enough to address this? Based on the recent decision of the government, the answer is mixed, and India may need a lot more to overcome the distress that the pandemic has created across the sections of the society. Indeed, India was relatively fast in declaring national lockdown, and rightly so, and take quick precautionary measures compared to most of the countries that are dealing with exponential growth of infection. While saying this, of course, yesterday you must have heard our Honorable Prime Minister's speech, and also all of you must have read newspapers, the Economic Times, and so on and so forth. The government and the RBI have taken various measures on regular basis, not only to ensure liquidity in the financial market, but also transferring money to Jandan accounts to partially mitigate the income loss to the poor and daily wage earners. These are all the messages we are reading from the newspaper and also from the NTTV or BBC, whatever. The government has already announced a fiscal support of rupees 1.7 lakh crore just 1 month back, and yesterday the minister has announced 20 lakh crore. Am I right? So, so they have announced a fiscal support of 1.7 lakh sometime back, and yesterday Prime Minister has announced 20 lakh crore, which is an addition to the support measures that other states to the state governments have taken so far. And however, as it might turn out, the measures taken till now, if you look at it, what kind of a measures taken till now may not be sufficient enough if the lockdown is extended further or for the post-lockdown economy. This is more so to sectors such as medium scale and what I mean is MSME that are already struggling with two major shocks, the form of demonetization and GST implementation and so on and so forth. There are also demand for distribution of free food grain to poor and destitute, and some economists have argued further that universal basic income type of support as was declared in US and other Scandinavian countries. So what I'm trying to say is that this much of package is announced, and we know that the MSME sector, which is an engine of growth, and also this is a sector where a lot of employment opportunity is suffering. And of course, there is a demand for distribution of free food grain and also universal basic income type like US and other Scandinavian countries. I'm just putting across all this information to you. It is not that I'm suggesting, but giving this information, does India has such fiscal pace to go for such a mega fiscal support? Or what India should do ensure both lives and livelihood and help post-pandemic economy recovery? It is important to understand in this, when I ask this question, it's important to understand what needs to be done to revive the trade sector is very important, which is a backbone of not only for economic growth, but also for employment. On the fiscal space, there are many teachers must be teaching the public finance and the monetary economics. And you know that the fiscal space, unlike during 2008 crisis, this time around the fiscal situation of both center and state are in a very precarious situation. The center has already invoked the escape clause for 2 consecutive years to reach its fiscal deficit target as suggested by the existing FRBM Act. There are many studies especially by the RBI recently, the state finances have been deteriorating for the past 3 consecutive years. And while given this unprecedented situation right now, it may not be wise to look at the fiscal targets now. Most certainly, it is important to look at how to finance the fiscal deficit. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I'll take an example of Karnataka. Okay, say in this, what is that? This suggestion coming out from Professor C. Ragarajan or from Professor Ragarajan, our former, both of them are former Abhay and my friend Banamurthy from National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, which he has done a lot of analysis for the 15th Finance Commission. What they're trying to say is that, for example, Karnataka, the budget deficit for this year is 2020 was fixed at 2.55%. And based on the recommendation of the 15th Finance Commission, probably in this situation, they're saying that increase the fiscal deficit to 3.5. You can additionally increase 1% fiscal space so that you'll be able to take care the kind of the economy which suffers. But this one point of view is that we are really going beyond the FRBM Act, but nevertheless, it is not good for economy to increase the fiscal deficit, but there is no other go in this situation. It is viable because it only affects in the short term, but within one or after the lockdown, once the economy picks up, that we can bring back the fiscal deficit within the purview of 3% of the FRBM Act. This is apart from increasing the fiscal deficit to 3% or 3.5%. There are few options for the state to enhance fiscal space to help the growth recovery process, whatever may be the state. I'm just taking an example of Karnataka is that, see, there are many states. Recently, the budget was the budget for the 2020-21 is passed. Probably recently there is an urgent need to recalibrate and reprioritize the public expenditure depending on the needs and scope of the each sector. See, what we have to see in the sense that what is required for the government expenditure that can be classified into healthcare expenditure, relief to people directly affected, and expenditure to stimulate demand and revive affected sector. These are all the three categories. Basically, the government should keep it in mind to revive the economy back. And the first set of expenditure, what I'm talking about health expenditure, is paramount. And the second is relief to people directly affected, such as your daily wages and migrant labor. This expenditure basically tries to take care of people who have been directly affected by the lockdown. And of course, there more needs to be done on this front. And of course, let us hear the Honorable Finance Minister talk this evening around 4 o'clock in this context that how best they have allocated to each stage to take care of this affected. And the third set of expenditure basically, once the lockdown is lifted, when the business units are ready to expand their activities, additional liquidity from RBI as well as some other supportive expenditure by Government of India can help. That is a pacing of expenditure by the government. This becomes very important. What I'm trying to say is that forget about all the categories of expenditure. I don't want to give the public finance lecture, but I would like to say, as of now, there is an urgent need to recalibrate and reprioritize the public expenditure depending on the needs and scope of each sector by the government. Say, for example, if we look at the Karnataka, where there is a sharp increase in flood control, there is a sharp increase in irrigation flood control, almost 29% increase compared to 2019-20. This year 2020-21, almost 29% increased. So some of these now we are not facing any flood control as now. So there are 29% increase. I'm saying this is one example. Some of this expenditure could be postponed and diverted to health and family welfare and social welfare and nutrition. That's what I need to say. How to recalibrate and reprioritize the public expenditure during this COVID-19. This is the need of the hour for every state government with the help of the central government. The second thing is that when you talk about to revive the Indian economy from the fiscal space, there are many states, I don't know other states, but the Karnataka state is running with the surplus on revenue account in about 0.02%. This is what my calculation for this state is. 0.02% is the revenue surplus for this year 2020-21. What I'm suggesting is that I'm suggesting for rationalization of expenditure that take care of short-term demand for poor and ailing MSME sector. I'll come back to that about MSME sector later. Similarly, under the capital expenditure head, now I come to the state recently, Karnataka has proposed spend little over rupees 58,000 crore in 2020-21. While this is necessary, of course, capital expenditure head is very necessary. The budget it was around 58,000 crore. While this is necessary, some of the new projects that are proposed for the current year could be postponed, while increasing or front-loading the allocation to the already existing project. What I'm trying to say as an economist is that the capital expenditure head, and in the capital expenditure head, some of the new projects that are proposed for the current year could be postponed, and also while increasing or front-loading the allocation to the already existing projects, to do that, this could generate what I call it as, this could generate quick multiplier impact on the state economy. And the next issue is the state may need to look at the extent of unspent balances, both at the line ministry level and also at the local body, both the urban and rural. Here it may be suggested to discuss with the CAG to understand the extent of unspent balances. Forget about to discuss with CAG. Even take this big program, the Right to Employment program, MNREGA. There are quite a lot of unspent balances. Very recently, I looked at National Institute of Public Finance and Policies estimate, which has come to me just 15 days back. And my friend Banumurthy has estimated. He has shared his estimates and asked. Some of the reflections from me is that there are quite a lot of unspent balances, even in MNREGA. Of course, these are all of course, simply the state government is searching here and there, but this is one of the suggestions that the state may need to look at the extent of unspent balances by the line ministry and as well as the both rural and urban local bodies. And another important message to many states, of course, I was sharing with some of the economic advisors of some of the states like UP and Uttarakhand, some of my friends are economic advisors over there to the chief minister. And quite often I say that the RBI has increased the extent of ways and means advance. There is a title called Ways and Means Advance. Nowadays, it's available for the states by 60% compared to 2019 and 20 limits. Compared to 2019 and 20 limits, the RBI has increased the extent of ways and means advances, which is available for the states by 60%. Now, what it means is that make use of this window. So as far as the state government concerned, Karnataka, by using this limit, my calculation says that the state, this would help the state to have an additional borrowing of rupees near about 1,400 crore compared to 2019-20. And not necessarily, there may be, not necessarily from this, or be all the time in a while, there may be some more fiscal support measures from the central government, and the state government might still be short of more additional resources. One option is to borrow from the market as well. Unlike many other states, Karnataka State Finance Commission finance is much better, and the interest rate on borrowing would be quite low. What I'm saying is that not necessarily the RBI has extended the limit of 60% is a beautiful window, whereas each state government can borrow from RBI. Each state government can calculate, of course, as far as ours, Karnataka state one can think of 1,200 to 1,800 crore can be borrowed for this in this lockdown or in this situation to revive the economy. This sort of strategy, and other is borrow from the market. And borrow from the market is that example is the Kerala. Kerala, the finance minister, of course, is an economics professor from Center for Development Studies. He is the finance minister of Kerala, and is the only state that economics professor has become a finance minister. He is well known Center for Development Studies, Isaac, Professor Isaac, and of course, well known. And Kerala has borrowed 8.96%, largely due to the weak fiscal situation in the state for a long time. But now they started reviving, even with a large interest rate they have borrowed from the market. But what I'm trying to say is that some of the states like Kannada is a much better position, so they can borrow from the market as well. So what I'm trying to say is that these are all the, when you look at the fiscal position, these are all the ways and means that the government can think of how to revive the economy, how to take care of the fiscal space in the Indian government, as well as the central, as well as the state concern. The other thing which I would like to say, this is, I'm just, the first point is I'm talking about total general, the economic revival in terms of fiscal space. That's what, these are all my, the straight thoughts immediately has come into my mind when I was accepting this lecture. The other front is the WTO, the trade front. The WTO has already predicted that the world trade expected to decline by 13 to 32%. So the impact on India's trade sector is expected to be very devastating. And as the Apricot study recently says that India's exports depend heavily on the external demand and much less on the domestic factors. While the external sector is expected to have V-shaped recovery. I told you now, I told you, all you people can go and see how to measure the V-shape. Sometimes the economy look like V-shape, U-shape, W-shape, L-shape, J-shape. Okay, it has its own meaning. Okay, and I don't have time to explain everything, but I had told you what are the variables people use it. But anyhow, while the external sector is expected to have a V-shaped recovery, this should also reflect on India's exports. However, the fear is that post-pandemic recovery may see the countries to adopt stringent protectionist policies, thus restraining any recovery in their exports. One way to overcome this could be that domestic industries to focus more on improving productivity that strengthen India's competitiveness in the international market. Further focusing on services and its exports could help recover some of the lost ground in merchandise exports. Overall, Unfortunately, it would take longer time for the external sector to recover. That's the message coming out. But then it majorly depends on how the global institutions are going to help improve cooperation and coordination among the countries. So these are all my the viewpoints. Basically, when you talk about, with the lockdown and with the increasing infection and the uncertainty, the economy has increased manifold.